You know, here at Fully Booked and Caffeinated, we love coffee, but there are so many options to choose from in the coffee game. So how can you narrow it down? Well, allow us to help. Afuera Coffee is a company that sources their specialty beans from Central and South America, and the environment is quite literally in every bean. The volcanic soil infuses each coffee bean with vibrant and unique flavors. They have a flavor for everyone based on your personal tastes. Bold espresso for me, smooth light roast for Heather. And that's not all. The best part about Afuera Coffee is the ethical sourcing and sustainable farming practices they use to give you the best coffee while still protecting Mother Earth. And there's more. 5% of all sales are donated back to charities that provide conservation efforts to the great outdoors. If you don't believe me, go to their website, afueracoffee.com, and click on the 5% Pledge tab. They have some great info on how much their pledge to charity has already impacted the environment. So check out Afuera Coffee if you're looking for great tasting, vibrant coffee, and you can rest assured knowing that you're contributing not only to your own happiness, but to the environment that we so desperately need to protect. This is an exclusive discount for listeners of our show. Use our promo code to get 15% off any product at afueracoffee.com. That's AFUERA coffee.com. Use promo code CAFFPOD, CAFFPOD. Again, that's afueracoffee.com, promo code CAFFPOD for 15% off sustainable and ethically sourced coffee. Hello, welcome to your favorite bookish podcast, Fully Booked and Caffeinated. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Heather.
And today we will be discussing and reviewing Nettle and Bone by Kingfisher. As usual, let's talk about our fuel for this discussion. What are you drinking / what did you drink, Heather?
This morning I went to Dunkin' and I got an iced caramel latte with oat milk. And it was subpar.
Okay.
But it got me through the morning. So I will take that with that what I will.
Okay. It worked as fuel.
I know, but now that I will be remote, I can go check out coffee shops in the area. Mm-hmm. Because I can bring my lappy toppy.
Exactly. Good
so
idea.
I'm excited for that. I figure maybe once a week I can try to find a new shop because there's so many coffee shops in the area, especially
there's
with
so
summer,
many by you. It's
especially
crazy.
with summer popping up. So, because there's a couple that I have been wanting to go to that I have not gone to yet. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have a lot in your area, so that'll be fun to check out new ones.
Yeah.
This weekend at the Books and Blooms event
I
at Calgo Garden.
I also got a coffee from there as well. I forgot about that.
From the Caffeinated Dragon Cafe, which is a little mobile food truck, coffee truck. Yeah. I just got a cold brew with their homemade brown sugar syrup and then their vanilla cold foam on it. Mm-hmm. It was very good, but their syrup wasn't sweet enough for me. I think I just needed more of it in there, but cold foam was delicious. Did you get a Noah Khan latte?
No, they were sold out of that one, but I got the chocolate chip cookie dough latte, but they were out of the cold foam, which is good for them. Okay. They clearly did very well.
Yeah, they were super busy all day, and so was the other coffee truck. Had a line. The one inside?
I didn't see the second one.
Yeah, there was another one that had a super long line the whole time. So, I think everyone did very well at that event.
Yes, it was a good event. Mm-hmm.
A bunch of authors were there. I felt bad for the one horror author. Just looking all lonely, because it was definitely an event for the romance girlies.
Yeah, it was, for sure.
But I went and talked to him, and I bought his book. So, which I'll talk about on Bookish Banter, probably.
Go.
Okay, so cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so Kingfisher is the pen name for Ursula Vernon.
That's a cool name.
I know, right? But she created a pseudonym to write adult fiction since she was previously writing and illustrating children's books, and so she wanted that distinction
Makes sense.
between her different audiences, yes. And Kingfisher is a bird that she did her pseudonym after. Which I didn't know, but it's a cute little bird. I looked it up. So she has a degree in anthropology, and her mom was an artist, so even though she didn't originally want to follow in her mom's footsteps and she was trying to rebel against her, she realized she couldn't fight it because she was actually really good at art and illustrating and all of that. So she started there, and then she branched into writing and kind of encompassing it all together. Mm-hmm. In 2023, she battled breast cancer, but she is now cancer-free.
Wonderful.
And she has so many books. Like over 50 adult books, several series, both in children's books and adult fiction, and a webcomic series.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't realize that she was older. She's not old. I think she's in her late 40s. Yeah, she's 48.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't realize until I looked her up, and I was like, oh, she's been writing for a while.
Yeah.
So this book specifically, Nettle and Bone, was published in 2022. It won the 2023 Hugo Award for Best Novel, and it was a finalist for several other awards, including Goodreads' Favorite Fantasy of 2023. I'm thinking that it was probably published in 2022 but had a wider release in 2023.
Probably.
Because all of the awards that it was up for were 2023. Okay, so our story graph, who's it for? Now, I haven't read this prior to this moment, so we're going to experience it together. And we will rate it together.
Wonderful.
A subversive, dark fairy tale centered on the fierce drive to protect siblings and dismantle cruelty. It is for readers who enjoy medium-paced quests with a dryly humorous tone, eccentric companions, and a macabre aesthetic blended with whimsical, folk-inspired magic.
I mean, that's like hitting the head on the nail there.
It's very accurate, definitely word salad, but it really encompasses everything I like about this book.
Yeah, I
right there
agree.
in the story graph. So
this is a solid A- for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the A's. I think A- is great. Okay. All right, and then our book summary. After years of seeing her sisters suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Marra, the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except for Marra herself. Seeking help from a powerful grave witch, Marra is offered the tools to kill a prince, if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But as is the way in tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. On her quest, Marra is joined by the grave witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. Together, the 5 of them intend to be the hand that closes around the throat of the prince and frees Marra's family and their kingdom from its tyrannous ruler at last. Chicken possessed by a demon. It's so true. Okay,
well,
before
it's a hen.
It is a hen, which is a female chicken.
Yeah.
Before we get... Actually, this is so funny because on Perfect Match, one of the guys didn't know that a hen is a chicken. Or that a rooster is a chicken.
Yeah.
He thought that a hen was a special third gender of chicken.
Okay.
They're not the brightest on that show.
Never are.
More on our Bookish Banter episode. Anyway, okay, before we get into the plot, let's take a quick ad break.
If you've been a long-time listener of the pod, you know Kelsey and I are all about pop culture and the entertainment industry, and if you happen to be looking for a one-place stop to shop for officially licensed merchandise, we've got the place for you. Old Glory is the ultimate destination to shop, offering over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans. This family-owned superstore has provided high-quality clothing and accessories since 1969, featuring the world's most iconic bands, sports teams, fan-favorite apparel, and quirky gifts, which means there's truly something for everyone. With free standard shipping and same-day order processing, Old Glory delivers fast and reliable service with every purchase. So whether you are shopping for yourself or looking for that perfect gift, Old Glory is your one-stop shop for iconic, high-quality merch, and our lucky listeners will receive an exclusive 15% off any product with the promo code CAFPOD. So head on over to oldglory.com to begin shopping their wide range of high-quality merchandise and get that exclusive discount. Again, that's Old Glory, OLDGLORY.com, promo code CAFPOD.
If you're a listener of the pod, you know that Heather and I are booked and busy. We're always looking for ways to make our life easier and to boost our energy and focus, which is why we've got a company for you to check out called Strong Coffee Company. Their instant coffee and latte options not only provide a quick route to your delicious morning coffee, their blends are also infused with 15 grams of grass-fed protein, 5 grams of MCTs, 250 milligrams of adaptogens such as ashwagandha and theanine. If you're like, what the heck does all that mean? It means you'll be getting much better sleep, more mental clarity, and no jitters or crashes. Better sleep means more productivity and more energy to do things you love, like read and listen to this podcast. So if you're committed to being your best, healthiest self without giving up your daily cup of coffee, check out Strong Coffee Company. We've got an exclusive discount for you only for listeners of our show. Head to strongcoffeecompany.com and use promo code CAFPOD to get 20% off any product. This is the highest discount Strong Coffee offers, so make sure to use this code ASAP and let us know what you think. Again, that's strongcoffeecompany.com and use promo code CAFPOD. Okay, so we start with our main character, Marra. Now I'm second guessing myself because I just said that I didn't look up the fucking names. It's Marra.
I think when I was reading it, I was pronouncing it as Marra.
And she's in the woods gathering materials to make a dog made of bones. And she succeeds, but the dog runs away because dogs are unpredictable.
This is true.
And we also get an interaction between her and this random farmer with a gun where they're talking about the people who have been outcasted by society after turning to cannibalism. And there's like a whole discussion about it, how there's people who are like acceptable cannibals and not acceptable cannibals. Never comes up again. So during their encounter, the dog comes back, thankfully, and scares the farmer away. Then we start to hear about Marra's home life. She is a princess, and her mom is a queen of a small harbor town in between a bigger north and south region. So they're like the little guys in between holding on to the water.
Yeah.
And there are 3 sisters, Damia, Kanya?
Kanaya? I think Kanaya.
Okay.
Or like Kania, maybe.
Kania?
Oh, how is it? Is it Kania?
Yeah.
Probably Kania.
Okay. I'm going to piss off whoever listened to the audiobook. My bad. Okay. Damia is married off to the Prince of the North as a political move so that their harbor town will have protection from the North, and then the North will have dominion over the Middle territory. Pretty soon after Damia gets married, she dies. And Marra has a hard time dealing with grief, which is honestly relatable. But she kind of refuses to accept it because she really liked Damia, and so she's sad. But Kania.
Any of the above.
But Kania, we're going to go with that one for now. It's going to be different next time, is then sent to the prince to marry him. And Marra and Kania have a complicated relationship, as most sisters do. But Marra has this type of innocence or immaturity about her that she holds on to those feelings into her adulthood and doesn't understand that those feelings can change as you grow up. So Marra is sent to a convent at 15, which is baffling. She experiences this weird sense of freedom at the convent because the weight of a royal family isn't on her shoulders, and she can finally have privacy. She can finally have a closed door where someone won't just walk in, and she's been under the pressure of being a princess for her whole life, and she didn't even realize how oppressive it was until she was free from it. Which is, she doesn't really harp on it, but it does come up again and again about how she was always performing, and she was always like a doll to be dressed up for everyone else, not for herself. Periodically, she hears from her mother about her sister's pregnancy status. And it turns out that her sister has had several miscarriages, and her only birthed daughter died. When Marra visits for the funeral, she finds out the prince is extremely abusive and sadistic, and her sister has been staying pregnant not only to try for a son, because royal family, but to keep herself safe from his violence, because he is significantly less abusive while she is pregnant. But obviously, continuous pregnancies are dangerous all on their own.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22. It's horrible either way.
She's definitely towing the line of life and death.
100%. So Marra goes back to the convent and is racked with guilt about her sister's situation, and she feels powerless and scared for her sister's life, especially after finding out that Damia's death wasn't an accident.
Mm-hmm.
She's been working with the sister apothecary, which, like, the name is right on the nose. Anyway, as a midwife and as her helper, and she turns to her for advice about what to do about her sisters. And she's pointed in the direction of a dust wife. So dust wives live in houses by the cemeteries, and they bury and bless the dead. So they can speak the language of the dead and also know their secrets. And the local dust wife sends her to a more powerful dust wife. Mm-hmm. She's like, what you want, I can't do, but there's a lady who can. And she's damn right. And it's a long journey where Marra uses her nunnery to survive, basically, because a woman traveling alone is not safe. Mm-hmm. But there is something about men who are so brazen to accost women or to harass women or to make comments to them or whatever, that they fear doing that to a woman of God.
Yeah.
So once again, where religion is used as this smoke screen. Mm-hmm. But, like, good for Marra, because she's fine. So when she meets the more powerful dust wife, she is given 3 tasks in order to get what she desires, which is to kill the prince and free her sister. Also, going to be so real, when I was writing my notes, I was calling her the Dust Witch. And then I realized after that she's a Dust Wife, so it's going to be either or. I like Dust Witch better, but that's just my personal opinion.
When you just said Dust Wife, I was like, I thought it was Dust Witch. But, like, I think it's just because of the whole concept of the book. Yeah. She is like a witch.
Yeah, because she has magic. Mm-hmm. So they're interchangeable, in my opinion. The first task is to spin a cloak of owl cloth and nettle wool, which burns and pricks her hands as she weaves it. It takes her almost 2 days, and she gets beat up in the process. Mm-hmm. The second task is the bone dog, which we know from the beginning that she successfully completed by digging up bones of dogs and weaving them together with wire, and it's pretty impressive.
Yes.
The Dust Wife is shocked that Marra completed both tasks because she says they were impossible tasks, and she didn't actually want to help Marra in the end. She just didn't think she was going to be able to complete the tasks. And it's not because she cared about the prince dying particularly, but because she didn't think that Marra knew what being a killer would mean.
Yeah.
And the third task is Moonlight in a Jar, which the Dust Wife gives to her as a freebie. Mm-hmm. And now the Dust Wife says, I'm your weapon, let's go on a journey. So even though she didn't think Marra would complete the tasks, she's a woman of her word, and now she's got to deliver. And she's impressed with Marra.
Yes.
For completing those tasks, and we'll get into it more later, but they have this kind of relationship where the Dust Wife is very non-judgmental of Marra and the things that she doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And also impressed with her determination and, you know, her really wanting to see this through. So they're moving at a really slow pace because they can't bring Bone Dog on any coaches. So the Dust Wife has to call upon the dead for directions to the Goblin Market. Mm-hmm. And Marra sees what power the Dust Wife is capable of.
Yes.
And this was so cool, this whole scene.
Yeah, it was.
And then she does some kind of magic to make a archway for them to walk to the Goblin Market. Once at the market, they trade 2 weeks of Marra's life for a moth which directs them to a man who is being kept as a servant. And they buy him for the price of one of Marra's teeth.
Crazy.
This is a strange market, but also sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, and it seems like she's giving up a bad tooth. So it's kind of like a win-win situation.
Because she's like, what do you mean, my teeth? And the Dust Witch is like, isn't one of your teeth bothering you anyway? He's going to just take it out of your mouth. And she's like, oh, well, I guess, but okay. And they also buy a glamour for Bone Dog so that he looks like a real dog.
Yeah.
But no sound, because sound is extra. So the man they purchased is Fenris, and he used to be a soldier. Next, there's a whole story about how Fenris used to be a soldier. I wasn't following that much of it, with the clans and the men and the fighting.
Yeah, it wasn't substantial to the story.
It was irrelevant. Mm-hmm. So the point is, he killed some people, he got cast out, he couldn't go home to his clan, and so then he was sleeping in a fairy fort, which apparently is madness. Who would sleep upon a fairy fort? We don't really get too many details about that. But anyway, it's a fantasy book, okay? We're going with it. So next they set out to find Marra's godmother, who is also her great aunt. And Marra yells at her, like loses her shit for not giving her a powerful enough gift at birth.
Yeah.
But it turns out her godmother's a little more adept at curses than gifts. Mm-hmm. And she's just trying her best.
She's just doing what she can.
And she decides to come with them too. And they head for the Northern Kingdom. And this is where they say the 5 of them will be the fingers of the fist that wraps around the prince's neck. Mm-hmm. Love that. Once there, they have no plan. And obviously what they're trying to do seems so insurmountable. Because this is a royal prince who is now the king by this point because his father has died. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure he has lots of security up at his palace.
100%.
So they find a boarding house to stay at, where the proprietor is a woman wearing a creepy-ass puppet on her shoulder, and it chokes her with a collar if she's talking too much. But she has Stockholm Syndrome and worships it.
Yeah, it's quite weird.
So weird. And it's completely irrelevant to the story, but I really like all of the illustrative elements that she includes in here. And they really make it feel like a fantasy book, but without the boring world building that a lot of other fantasy stories have.
Yeah.
So you don't have as much of that, like, detail. Instead, you have, like, these kind of fantastical elements.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Anywho, then Agnes, the godmother, decides that she should go talk to the godmother of the royal family, because she might be able to get some insider info, godmother to godmother. Mm-hmm, even though no one looking at Agnes would think she was a godmother.
No.
But that's fine. She's got a little...
She kind of sounds like... I'm not gonna lie to you. When they said godmother, I immediately just thought of the fairy godmother from Cinderella.
I was thinking that too. Or one of the ones from Sleeping Beauty. Isn't that the ones with pink, green, and blue?
Yeah. The two, either one of them. They're like, you know...
Such a cartoon godmother. Because they say that she's just like a little plump lady. Yeah. She looks so nice. She's got a little baby chick that she named Finder. She carries it around in her scarf and in her cleavage.
In her boobage.
So they find out from the royal family godmother that she's been cursing the children, not blessing them. They die young because she is feeding off of their life force to be immortal. Mm-hmm. Which is so metal. But she doesn't want to be immortal. She's been around all this time. She is basically just bones in a skin sack.
Yes.
She's lonely. She's sick. Mm-hmm. She's ancient. So they realize that the godmother must die in order to override her curses. Mm-hmm. And so they have to defeat the king who cursed her. His ghost. Because he is dead. Mm-hmm. So they head into the catacombs underneath the palace, and after winding their way through hundreds of tombs and encountering some crazy ghosts and stories, including a thief wheel, which is a huge 10-foot wheel covered in the souls and ghosts of grave robbers.
Yes.
They finally find the king they're looking for, and the Dust Witch, with help from her demon hen, defeats him.
Mm-hmm.
And the godmother immediately just crumbles into dust.
Yeah.
Just poof. And with the godmother dead, they head to the christening of Kanya's. It's going to be Kanya, because that's how I read it. It might not be right, and that's fine. Her brand new baby boy.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know, a boy is a big deal.
Correct.
Marra arrives just in time to be by her sister's side when Agnes rumbles in, looking completely unlike herself. Larger than life, green eyes, looking like
very
Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty.
Or like Wicked-esque. Like I was thinking,
Yes.
like, you know what I mean? Or like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yes, but in like Glinda's ensemble, because she's still like regal looking.
Exactly.
And she rumbles in as the replacement godmother and curses the child to be fatherless and healthy.
Yes.
She never forgets to give a healthy baby. And as chaos ensues to capture Agnes, because the prince/king may be abusive and a piece of shit, but he ain't dumb. He knows what that means. So, as the chaos ensues, they're trying to capture Agnes. Poor Bone Dog is shattered into all of his bony pieces.
The poor thing.
And during the kerfuffle, Fenris stabs the king and kills him. Kanya uses her queen power to have the guards capture Fenris alive, instead of killing him on the spot, and provides a lie that Marra was trying to warn them, so that she doesn't get implicated. After it's clear Kanya has her work cut out for her, and that the queen, their mom queen, may start wanting to focus on new barters for her children's bodies and lives, Mara's like, I need to get the fuck up out of here.
Yeah,
I did what I needed to do. You got, you're welcome. I gotta go.
I'm gonna see myself out.
Yeah. So they bury Fenris alive in the tombs, and Marra and the Dustwife rescue him after half a day. That's how long it takes them to get to him, which is so traumatic for him. He feels like he's been there for weeks.
Yeah.
But he's so gracious and gentle and appreciative of them. Mm-hmm. He's like, I think I just need a little fresh air. Like, he's just so gentle giant. So the foursome escape from the kingdom and head off. Agnes and the Dustwife go together to live at the Dustwife's house, and Fenris and Marra decide to run off together and start a new life in hiding. And finally, feed into the sexual tension that's been brimming since the first page.
Yes.
And Marra takes the bones of Bone Dog and stitches him back up again, and he's reborn.
But I liked that little thing where he was only reborn because her tear fell on him.
Yes, because she brought him back to life, and especially because she asked the Dustwife, like, is this going to work? And she was like, usually it doesn't work for people because they're not dumb enough to fall for it, but dogs are much simpler.
I know.
And you don't really feel sad about him dying because he was already dead. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you knew he was going to come back to life.
Yeah.
He had to.
Yes.
And yeah, so she's just sitting there waiting for something to happen, and her tear falls on him, and then he starts licking his imaginary private parts, as a dog does.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get a happy ending for all.
Yay!
Before we get into some discussion, we're going to take another quick ad break.
Here at Fully Booked and Caffeinated, Kelsey and I love a good strong coffee. But sometimes you just need a coffee to take the edge off and not keep you up all night, or maybe you're cutting back on your caffeine intake without sacrificing the flavor. Well, that's where Savorista Coffee comes in. Savorista Coffee offers premium craft decaf and half-calf blends that are small batch roasted for exceptional taste, with ethically sourced beans, natural decaffeination, and bold flavors, such as the Colombian Inspiration Decaf with chocolate, caramel, citrus, and fruit notes, or the Barely Buzzed Half Calf with dark chocolate, toasted marshmallows, and walnuts, which is directly going into my shopping cart. Our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount of 25% off any product with our promo code CAFPOD. So head on over to Savorista.com and be sure to put in that promo code during checkout. Again, that's Savorista, SAVORISTA.com, promo code CAFPOD, to try out what customers rave to be the best decaf coffee they've ever tried.
And we're back. Okay, let's talk about Marra. So, Marra is a complicated character because she does have a lot of immaturity, like we talked about, and she also has imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
She is overwhelmed with the task at hand and the responsibility she feels to her sister. And as they continue to add more members to their little group, she grows in confidence because she isn't alone anymore. Mm-hmm. And she also keeps reminding herself that she completed 2 impossible tasks.
That she did.
She traveled alone. She survived things she never even knew existed, let alone had never seen before. Like the goblin market and, all of this magic that she had never seen. She's also very critical of herself, and as soon as she makes Bone Dog the first time and then he runs away, she's like, how stupid of me, how could I have messed this up? She's just very pessimistic and down on herself, and I think a lot of that is because she had 2 older sisters, and she's always known that she's not as knowledgeable about their situation, their situation as the royal family, as, the politics of everything.
Yes.
And she grows a lot throughout the book, obviously, but one of the biggest ways is her understanding of how the world works.
Yeah.
So she never was interested in the politics of it all or the democracy of it all before because... oligarchy. You know what I mean. All of that before, because she didn't really have to be. She was just a princess who got dressed up like a doll and was just waiting out her time to be married off, or at the convent working on her needlework and shoveling. And she comes to understand that people are complicated and nuanced and multifaceted. So she originally saw Fenris as a killer only. But once she hears his story and his reasoning behind why he killed, she completely understands why he did it and why he is that way. And she's able to trust him because those bad things that she thought about him aren't what she originally perceived.
Yes.
And it's the same as her view of Agnes, right? She was so disappointed in her godmother. But once she realizes that Agnes was a bastard daughter...
Yeah.
And that she's just trying her best. And in spite of all of the bad stuff that she's been through, she's so positive and she's so happy and so thankful. It completely changes Marra's perspective.
Yeah, it does.
And I do love that because at first we see Agnes as this kind of like annoying, chatty, like bumbling godmother. And then it turns out that she has a lot of power and that she has a lot of great ideas. Like, who thought that her just walking into the other godmother's house and talking to her would have worked?
She's like the epitome of like more than meets the eye.
Definitely. Definitely. And because she has that bubbly exterior and that positive attitude, you don't really realize right away all the other things that she's been through and how hard it's been to be her when she's just trying to give gifts when she realizes, oh, I'm just cursing animals left and right. And she didn't ask for that, but she is now seeing that there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And she can use it for good. So who was your favorite character?
I think the Dustwife. just because she was definitely a badass. And she had... It's, like, interesting because we never find out her name. And it's like, which is, like, interesting to me as well, because it's kind of, like, there must be some reason why she doesn't give up her name. And I like the mystery of that. But also you can see her... She doesn't want to go on this journey. This is the last thing that she wants. And she doesn't want to go on it with, like, the bumbling idiots that they have slowly accrued in their little group. But by the end of the book, like, she cares a lot about every single one of them. And I it's like the unexpectedness of it all, and you can really see she's very true to herself, but it's nice to see that even though she's grumpy, as Agnes says, like, she still has a part of her that is good in a sense, and that, like, wants to care about people.
Yeah, especially at the end when she says to Agnes, like, you're going to come live with me. I know you're going to drive me crazy, but come on. And she just has such a good relationship with all the characters, because even when they first meet Fenris and she's just, like, throwing snide comments at him and saying all this stuff, and he's just taking it like a champ, and he really appreciates her. And I talked about it a little bit, but the way that she is with Marra and teaches her so much about the world that Marra never knew, and never judges Marra for not knowing these things, but just kind of, like, subtly pushes her in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Marra needs, because
she doesn't have any guidance whatsoever.
Exactly.
You know? She was sent to the convent at such a young age, and clearly when you're in a place of religion, it's very one-track minded.
Yeah. And that was another way that she really diminished her own abilities, because she wasn't officially a nun. And so she would be like, oh god, I gotta apologize to the saints every time someone assumes I'm a nun. I'm like, girl, who cares? Just tell them that you're a nun. No one cares. But anyway, I digress. Okay. Another thing that stuck with me was the age of our characters. So usually in fantasy, you have very young people. 16-year-olds getting married. But Marra is 30 when the action happens. Fenris is 40, and the godmother and Dustwife are obviously older women. So I love that this book is centered around an older cast of people, even though Marra obviously has those little bit of, like, immaturity and, like, you know, where she is almost, young.
Yeah, it's almost like childlike characteristics, but not like child, like adolescence.
Exactly. It's just because she has been so sheltered and hasn't experienced the world and never really took an interest in it before.
No.
What do you think about the horror elements of this book?
I guess, like, I don't view it too much as, like, horror. I guess it's more like kind of like, I mean, which we've talked about this before. There's also, like, there's so many subgenres within a genre. And so, like, this one I think is, like, kind of like a fantastical horror. Like, the puppet creeped me out. That was definitely very, very well done. Obviously, like, Bone Dog, but he sounds cute, so that didn't come across as, like, you know, gruesome or anything. And, like, the Goblin Market sounded cool as fuck.
Yeah, I never really saw it as horror until I was researching after, and everyone was talking about the horror elements. But yes, we have the goblins. We have the dead boy in the river, which is pretty creepy. And the teeth pulling, so when the teeth are, like, dancing around in her mouth and stuff.
And even, like, the ghosts in the catacombs.
Yeah, like the violent ghosts. And there are a lot of horror scenes and elements, but I think they're definitely mild enough to be considered fantasy, not horror. I think, to your point, if this was considered horror, it would be a fantastical horror, because it's so much more dark fairy tale than actual, you know, horror. All right, so I read a review from Reactor Mag by Martin Cahill, and I want to read a little excerpt about it. It's a review of this book. Kingfisher doesn't shrink or hide away from how often fairy tales brutalize young women, how so many stories take their agency, their bodies, and their will for use and abuse by kingdoms and kings alike, how privilege and power shield the mighty, and how literal magic will coil and twist itself to hide the monstrous from justice. But Kingfisher argues throughout the narrative, no monster is completely untouchable, and if you have enough people fighting against the narrative, fighting to change the narrative, the story can be bent to their will.
I like that.
Me too. I think this is an amazing concept, especially for us as women, and especially right now. Women are obviously used and abused, and in our circumstance, it's power and money that shield the monsters and not magic. But the message that no monster is completely untouchable, and that if we fight together, we can overcome these monsters. And, you know, in this book, you have this band of misfits who are slightly misguided but have the best intentions, and they're able to take down the king, and with a little outsmarting and a little planning and a little luck. And I mean, that's something we have to tell ourselves as liberal women in the US every day, that we can overcome these monsters who are making our lives miserable. So I really do like that messaging in here.
I think it's also kind of, you know, there's that concept as well of monsters are only as scary as you make them out to be. So the more that you like diminish them in your mind or make them seem not real, the easier they are to overcome.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that, because there's also in here that part where Marra finally sees the king. He's a prince at the time, but whatever. And she's like, all I could think of was that he's short. I was not expecting him to be so short. And like, you know, we love a short king, not this short king. You know what I'm saying? But she's just like, this is the person that everyone's scared of. Yeah. This is the person who is ruining my sister's life.
It's just, it's like kind of surreal how a title can be slapped onto a person and it somehow makes them bigger or larger than life.
And completely untouchable. And the fact that everyone pretty much knows that this is going on. When she tells her mom's not surprised at all. Yeah. And because it is such a common thing with these powerful men, and the women are just supposed to shut up and take it so that their harbor town isn't conquered. It's just so silly when you spell it out like that.
Exactly.
There's also some really dark themes in here with domestic violence, miscarriages, Kanya basically being a baby factory.
Yeah. Which that part was like, that was obviously like crazy to me because, you know, she mentions that she tries to stay pregnant or continuously gets pregnant in order to avoid the abuse from the king. But then, like, she loses the baby, and then it's kind of like she gets a heavier wrath from him because, like, you know, she's not able to produce a correct gender hair. But, you know, like, I've been pregnant, you know, like, I know people who have had miscarriages, and it's the hormonal imbalance that pregnancy gives you and causes you. Like, I can't even imagine that being like a real situation of just continuously getting pregnant on purpose, miscarrying, and then immediately getting pregnant again. Just, you know, she has not 1 second to breathe, not 1 second to fully grieve. When her daughter dies, she mentions that she never even got to like hold her. Like, she was immediately ripped from her, and it's just, you know, so when she dies, it's like she can't even, I think she even says that, she's like, I don't even have anything to grieve because I didn't even know her. Like, I didn't have any kind of bond with her.
Yeah, she's like, it feels like someone else's baby has died. And that's a whole nother level, which they don't really get into, but the fact that she's being reduced to this baby factory and being a mother, And then when she is a mother, she doesn't even feel like one.
No.
Because she's not given her child to bond with or to love or anything. And especially in this time where they don't have a postpartum therapist for her to be going to, you know? And there's so many women who die during childbirth.
Yeah.
And she would rather take her chances with that than with her husband. So another thing about the women in this story is that they're split between survival and power. So Kanya and the Queen are emotionless in some ways and only focused on the politics and the survival aspect.
Yeah.
Whereas the Dustwife is concerned with power, but only when necessary. She doesn't flaunt her power. There's some things that she doesn't even know. She knows that she probably could do, but she's never had to do before.
Yeah.
And Marra joins that club also of being concerned with power when it's something that's going to save her family.
Yeah.
And I also really liked that Marra was so focused on saving her sister when in her mind her sister still hated her. And, you know, you see from their interactions when they're older that Kanya doesn't hate her anymore.
No, it's more like a, you know, it's just, it's like a middle child syndrome thing, you know, and she could see the fantasy land that Marra was living in, and, you know, it's, when you're in your teens and you have sisters, I think that's just kind of what happens. You just don't, there's always going to be an imbalance of a relationship, but also, like, you know, none of the sisters had a good relationship. Only Marra had a good relationship with her older sister. You know, like, Kania didn't have a good relationship with either sister. So it's just, you know, I think obviously as she grew older, her maturity level spiked, and she was able to just say, like, there was no, it wasn't a true hatred. It was just like a teenage hatred.
Yeah. Just like an annoying little sibling.
Yeah.
And you can also tell that their mother never prioritized family love.
No.
Never prioritized any type of warmness or camaraderie like that. And I think that was definitely a way for the mom to distance herself from what she had to put her children through. And from what she had to, in her mind, the decision she had to make.
Yeah. There's a part in the book which, like, you know, Kania kind of says to Marra, she justifies her mother's actions, and it says, if she didn't sacrifice us, you know, hundreds of people would have died. And it's just, you know, it's an interesting concept to think of as, like, a woman in power. Does she save her family or does she save her people? And it's like, you have to be a special kind of person to put your kingdom before, like, your own family. That didn't sit right with me, but, you know, I understand why she did what she did, but the fact that you're just shipping your daughters off to someone who you know is a violent man and knows the life that they're going to lead, it's really unfortunate. You probably just shouldn't have had kids then, my lady.
Yeah, the fact that she knows that they're being abused, she knows that her first daughter's death was not an accident.
Yeah.
People are calling it a romance. Not calling the book a romance, calling Marra and Fenris a romance. What did you think about them?
It was like a slow burn. Like, it was, I mean, I knew immediately, as soon as they left the Goblin Market, what it was going to be.
Oh, the minute he took her elbow.
Exactly.
I said, okay.
Like, you can clock it pretty easy. But I liked that they didn't do anything. Like, it was just kind of like, it was hinted at here and there. And then, you know, especially when we get the insight into Mara's thoughts, and she's like, you know, she realizes that she's beginning to care for him, which I'm sure is foreign to her as well. You know, I mean, like, she was not that she's like she said, she's not a virgin. Like, she hooked up, you know, she slept with one of the guards or whatever it was, right? In the kingdom?
I thought she watched someone else hook up, but then she said she wasn't a virgin, so she must have banged somebody.
I think I thought, maybe I'm thinking, I read so many goddamn books, but, like, I thought there was a part where there was, like, a guard or something that she had, like, a fling with, and then he was, like, bragging about it to other people.
Oh! I vaguely
book?
remember that.
Okay.
I think so.
So, like, so I don't think she clearly has no interest in becoming a baby factory or being, like, married off, so I don't really think I feel like romance was, like, the very last thing on her list, or finding, like, a partner. So I think, like, her relationship with Fenris was, like, a shock to the system for her, and I like that she's older, and so she's able to kind of comprehend it a little bit more, and, they're both just, like, kind of, like, outcasts of their original story, and it's so it's, you kind of like it's almost like the found family trope, or like meets like, and it's just kind of it leaves enough to the writers or the reader's interpretation of where it goes from here. Because it even, like, I like the two that they were like they couldn't even kiss because Bone Dog got involved. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like there's not even any ounce of physical affection. It's just, aside from him, kissing her head and, like, holding her hand and stuff like that. Like, it was very PG, but I actually think it was important to the story.
Yeah, I think so too. And I liked that she was, sometimes her inexperience with things like this paid off, because she would say exactly what she was thinking, and she'd be like, I don't want you to get the wrong idea, but do you think you could come and sleep here? Like,
and then
so
she would, like,
her to be honest.
Yeah, and she would think about the things that he said, and she's like, wait, what did he mean by that? Because she doesn't know how to take certain innuendos, not that they're innuendos sexually, but just, like, he's like he says, like there was that part where she says, you're a saint, and he's like, you have no idea. Which obviously we as a reader know, like, oh, he would fuck her if he could. And he's holding himself back from, like, being physical with her. And so, like, and she's just like, I don't know what that means.
And then the part where Agnes, who just says exactly what's on her mind, is like, so, hey, you and Fenris, hey. And
Agnes
it's so
is who
funny.
I'm going to be when I am older.
I loved that. And then the Dust Witch, who you think has no interest in this, but she also has seen it from the second that they picked up Fenris. And so when they leave, she's like, God, there is so much sexual tension in here. I gotta get the fuck out of here. So you guys can go kiss or do whatever you're doing.
I know.
So in that way...
I liked the call out.
Yeah, and then that way they gave their permission for something to happen. Yeah. And for Marra to think, oh, wait, maybe he could be reciprocating these feelings. Anything else that you want to discuss about this book?
No.
Great.
It was, like, because it was so short, and, like...
It was short.
Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. Like,
well,
it was...
we always say fantasy books should be about 200 pages shorter. This one was. All right, so our rating scale is puppets sitting on your shoulder.
Oh my god, what? There's like an episode of Buffy that had, like, a wooden, like a ventriloquist. That was kind of like what I, like, thought of it as. I'm like, those, they do creep me the fuck out.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of that movie The Boy, which is just about that puppet that they, like... Also, this is so funny because when I was writing my notes, I had my rating scale, and I was like, oh, I already did the rating scale, but it was from when we talked about Cursed Daughters, and my rating scale was Eternal Dogs. And I was like, well, that would kind of still apply, but I changed it to Puppets Sitting on Your Shoulder. So how many puppets did you give this book?
I gave it 4. I was a little nervous when I started it because I was afraid that I wasn't grasping it, and that it more or less wasn't going to be my cup of tea. But once it, like, really hit its stride, I would say probably around the Goblin Market phase, and it really kind of kicked off from that point forward, and we had all the interactions between all the characters, and just the different intricacies of everyone, I ended up really enjoying it. Like, it came together, like, really nicely. And that's the thing, and I feel like with these kind of books, you just... Any fantasy, you're never gonna like initially, because you don't know where it's going. And it's either gonna be boring, or it's gonna go over your head, or you're not gonna understand it, or it's going to completely blow your mind. And, like, I mean, I wouldn't say this book, like, blew my mind, but it was just, like, a really... I mean, it was a cute story. Like, I know it's not supposed to be cute, but it was kind of cute. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I was also nervous about it, especially in the opening where they're having the whole cannibalism conversation. And I did not understand what the hell was going on. Were there bad cannibals and good cannibals? Why'd they become cannibals in the first place?
Don't understand why that was even in the story, because I feel like it had no part.
It was irrelevant.
It had no real purpose.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, oh, I was a little nervous too. But I also rated this 4 puppets sitting on my shoulder. There was so much I loved about it. I loved the characters so much. The humor, and just how many elements were stuffed in here of just, you know, the hen and the
that's what I was going to say.
and
I
the
feel
puppet.
like the hen's personality really shone through. Like, I like when they're, like, in the catacombs and the moonlight hits the shadow and you see the horns and, like, oh, there really is a demon. And, like, when the hen, like, cackles and certain things that happen specifically about, like, Fenris and Marra, which I thought was, like, cute. So, like, yeah, it was definitely, like, a very creative take in general on all of them.
And the Dust Witch is so dry. She's just like, yeah, why would I lie about there being a demon in my hen? Like, obviously. I did think the romance part could have been explored a little more. Obviously, I didn't want it to be the center of the story, but
no, which is why
I wanted to see something happen.
Yeah.
But there were so many pages of Marra being indecisive at the convent that felt unnecessary, where she's just pacing back and forth, where I would have wanted more from the end confrontation instead.
Yes.
So I felt like there were some parts where it really... Not really dragged, but some parts where it dragged a little bit.
I agree. I feel like the first quarter of the book, I couldn't get into it. So yeah, it was kind of like a little, you know, it was because it was also in the POV of one girl who has nobody. So it's kind of like, there's nothing to bounce off of.
Yeah, that's true. I think T. Kingfisher is an amazing storyteller, and
you've read a lot of her stuff, right?
Yeah, I've read at least 3, and I have a couple more, but as someone who doesn't like fantasy, this hits the dark fairy tale aspect for me without being so obviously fantasy, because it doesn't have that world building and that the maps and the different kingdoms and all this shit. It was 3 kingdoms. I could keep track of it. Once they introduced the clans, I don't know what the fuck was going on. So I like that it just focuses on the fantasy elements and kept the story actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
And I just think that so much of it, like, I wasn't outwardly like, oh, the humor is so funny. But when I think about it, it was the banter was, like, effortless between them.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And I mean, I'm going to read more of her books, so this didn't convince me either way.
Yeah, I would definitely read more of her stuff, because I liked this. You know, I thought it was an interesting...
Yeah,
and she was a new-to-me author.
Yeah.
And it was a fun take, and I think that she is really good at creating characters, which is very important.
Characters that you want to care about.
Exactly.
And some of her other books are a lot more horror forward too, so I think those are the ones that I gravitate towards more. But I mean, just having a demon hen is just like such a bad bitch move, you know what I mean?
And
like that's just familiar.
It just like chills on you 24/7.
Just like chills on her cane, or like goes and hides in her backpack. Nothing better besides Bone Dog. I love Bone Dog,
of course.
All right, anything else that we missed? All right, that's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on. If you have any book recommendations or questions for us, you can email us at fullybookedcalfpod@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at fullybookedcalfpod to see our upcoming reads. Thanks for checking us out, and remember,
if you need us, we're fully booked.